we have 16 shows. We started tonight, I have to see every one of them. Yeah,
All right, you guys, can you be quiet again for a sound check? We didn't get our, report today, and I didn't hear that say a report.
Yeah,
I'm a little worried about that.
but it is bad.
Give me your money, okay, again, or you not say whether. All right, welcome, everybody. If you got my email. Yes. All right, welcome, calling the meeting to order at 3:04, thanks to unexpected technical difficulties, no matter how early I get here. All right, Wednesday. Sunday. So I do have a couple of substitutions today. So Danielle is out and she gave Tara her proxy. If Tricia has to leave early, Tara has her proxy, so Tara could have 3 votes, 3 vote for anything. And Jess is here for Stephanie today. Well, they're both here, but you have her proxy today. We also have a sub for our acting, we have an acting BPAA, Beth.
Oh, right, well, you got elevated. You do.
So I did not get a reply to my request for note takers.
I replied to you just recently.
I missed
Be
you.
one, I can be one of the people.
What?
An outfit?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yeah, they're.
So you are here for both Christy and Sabrina.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter who's for who, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for covering that. They usually take notes, but you guys both have paper. Who's gonna type notes for today?
Katie already
I'll be
said
one
she
of the
would.
people.
She's one, we can't have just one. So who else is gonna type some notes?
I'll do it.
Who was that, Elizabeth?
Elizabeth.
All right, so Jess, are you happy to not have to sign?
Oh, you can do it if you want. Or Jess, you can do it if you want.
You want to introduce them?
They get it. So, all right, what did we confirm for the note taking? Okay, so Jeff, email me please when they're ready by hopefully the end of the week, and Katie as well. Thank you so much. Okay, and Kathy suggested I introduce Wendy Peters and Joanne Graham. I thought we could know they're here from the Calhoun department. So thank you for subbing today while Christy and Sabrina are at the high schools. Okay, so I need approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, Kathy and Chris. Thank you. I assume that's just by acclamation. All right. So we don't have items to be taken out of order. We are watching time as usual, so try to follow the time hopes in the agenda. And I did hear we have one public comment, so you wouldn't mind recording, but I'm sure you'll, within your 3, okay?
Yes, and this is really just an announcement that we didn't have time for in the meeting. As you hopefully you've seen, we're having our faculty lecturer, Nathan Kreitzer, is going to be probably performing for us on Friday, April 26th in the campus center at 3 o'clock. So I'm hoping that you can all attend that. And then this is the paper nomination form. As you can see, there are multiple ways to nominate. This is a really important award for our faculty. And I hope that you take this seriously and nominate someone for this and either do it online using the QR code, using the paper form. It is not an anonymous nomination. We do have to sign it, not that we come back, say anything to anybody, but we have to verify that it's actually coming from an employee. And remember, this is not just faculty. All students, faculty and staff can nominate this person. If you want any additional forms, I have some for those of you that actually like paper, and I'm sorry for those of you online. But this, I think Jordan, you've sent this out already in one of your announcements?
So I sent it out, it was at the bottom of last week's roundup. So it was just kind of an email roundup to talk about all the things that are happening in the upcoming week. I'll be sending another one this Friday. I can also send just an individual email as well.
That would be great. The deadline is April 29th because we have to go through the selection process, which is not easy. And then we have to announce on May 3rd to the Senate, who the next faculty lecturer is going to be. So please pass these around, make some nominations, help us out. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. You've been doing this for a long time. All right, so now we have approval of today's minutes. And again, a big thank you to Stephanie Mendez, who takes great notes. So I suggest you will that same great bar. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes for today?
I move to approve.
Okay, who was that? Elizabeth, great.
I'll second.
And Rosabeth, thank you. All right, are there any corrections or emendations? All right, so I'm just gonna ask for any abstentions or no's because otherwise it's acclamation. All right, great, thank you. Minutes passed. So I'm gonna try to keep this quick. And I want to remind you, I've made some links to the information items, so we're gonna zip through those, but things change even when I build the agenda on Sunday. Just before the read finish after consulting with Tara for an hour earlier in the day. So this is going to be on Paloma's report, which is wonderful, but I've highlighted it here because there's something that we have talked about as a faculty as we get ready for the plenary, is that we know that one of the reasons we have some issues at the start of semester with enrollment is that some students wait to enroll till after classes start, so they don't have to pay and get dropped for non-payment. So we have this unfortunate problem with the FAFSA, but it gives us a really great opportunity to see if that changes our enrollment patterns. So we'll talk about that a little bit more at the plenary, but how we're going to try to be really sensitive to what happens with enrollment this fall. I wanted to just highlight, this is also in the agenda at item 6.02. But there's different deadlines for these two sets of awards. So the recognition awards are at noon, and those anyone can nominate anyone for those, any employees. The Faculty Excellent Awards are just faculty awards. The nominators are faculty, and they're for faculty, and ours are due by 11:59 p.m. And what is being highlighted this year through the sabbatical leave and faculty recognition committee is to really think about our part-time and non-credit faculty. They've always been eligible, but if you look at the past recipients, there is a predominance of full-time faculty. So I'm just asking all of you to remind your divisions of this and encourage this nomination for our outstanding part-time and non-credit faculty as well. Then just a reminder for the recognition awards and breakfast. That is Friday, April 26th, and the longevity recognitions begin at 5 years. So all employees are going to be recognized. They've been here 5 years or longer. Well, you know, they are getting pins. I'm not going to read everybody's names, but anyway, longevity is part of that breakfast too, to celebrate being here. Want anything else, Jordan?
Yeah, and so Human Resources has also reached out to other individuals that are reaching their milestone. So they're already been contacted, and so just know that's happening.
Oh, wonderful.
Everybody will submit to their list. So,
Okay, and everyone with eligible has been contacted. Like I wasn't, but I assume you'd think I don't need to be right.
what are you like 20 years, 30? What?
Oh, it has to be even?
40, 50 years.
Like every 5.
Oh, so you've got to be on that anniversary.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. I cannot do this at the same time. All right, I'm right, one more time.
May I just have a quick question, which is this a new thing? Because I don't recall this for faculty.
So a longevity is something that it happens on, I think, again, I'm still new, but it happens for administrative side because
Okay.
you all have tenure and you have.
Right.
But we are, the pins are new to, showcase that you all have been here for long and want. What's also new is the recognition awards, which there's 6 categories. Those are due, nominations are due Friday.
Okay, thank you. This next item is just to give you a heads up that we've had a change that the faculty have been asking me about as far as those who want to get funding from the foundation for special projects that they've been developing. And so there used to be a form on the website, and our previous CEO of the foundation asked faculty to come right to him. We have been in this period of going through the VPs of areas. And so EC is going to share more directions. It's still been happening. So like deans have told their faculty, people have had the chance to request funds. So that process has been happening, but it hasn't really been clearly documented. It's been more oral. So they're working on that. And I just wanted to share kind of how these things rise to the surface as we have been through so many different administrators, presidents, COVID, it's like these. So what it rose up through PEC this year with the others request tab. And we just realized kind of deep into PEC, oh, wait a minute. We assumed everybody knew they needed to go through other channels, like their deans or their VPs. And other people assume, oh no, PEC has money or does something with it. So we made sure that we're like, oh, let's surface that. And so happily, the biology department's wonderful 0 weeks programs are going to get that chance to be considered for that. So it's just this little reminder, and thank you to everybody who asks, right? Who ask me or Tara or somebody on steering, and then we find out and try to bring these things. Last exciting announcement in terms of the plenary. It won't be ready by the plenary. Sometime in the fall, we are going to have new enrollment management tools in Tableau. Maybe by a miracle in the summer, and Keller's coming on April 24th for our meeting to be able to tell us more about it. But it is really exciting. At her previous college, there were like 10 or 12 different tabs pre-built in Tableau. So like you can check things like, what's the attrition between census and the drop deadline? And you can check heat maps in terms of what times fill up the fastest. It's going to be really empowering for all of us. And I just remind you, I'm trying to get this information into our agenda. So I've noted 6.06 talks about Tableau now in the productivity dashboard. 8.02 is our plenary. So just kind of reminding you of these places where these things are being discussed. And the productivity dashboard in Tableau was built for data to report to the state. We can use it to try to figure out productivity. You have to check tons of different boxes, and sometimes that can come out not quite come out the way it should because we don't know what boxes to check. So you can always follow up with your dean to get more help with that too. This almost last announcement is a tough one for me to make because I have been really privileged to be working with Denitris in this last year, and especially at the restorative justice workshops. But she's got a important next step in her career to go to work for Pacifica Graduate Institute instead. So people feel free to reach out to her and she will be happy to talk more about it. So her last day will be at the awards breakfast. And then just in terms of some of the practical details, Keller will take over chairing BPAP. And for faculty in particular, we are fortunate that, of course, Denitris would think of this, to put Perla onto BPAP to both represent HR and also for faculty in particular, but all of our hiring BPs, APs, BP and APs that are going through revision now. So Perla was really involved in those pilots and she'll be a really important resource for us to work on those. I hope to find out at the April 12th meeting what the timeline is for that. It might change a little now that we're going to have this shift in leadership. Dean will be taking Denitris's place as lead negotiator. And Jordan, thank you, as the chair of the EOAC committee. All right.
Do you know the timeline for replacing that position?
I do not, although I know they are, Erica shared at the SBCC Foundation board meeting on Monday that she has finalist interviews this week.
Okay, thank you.
I can take one. And then finally, thanks to Jordan, I didn't know we now have a website that has the budget reports on a webpage link there. But here's the link to the Q&A from Monday. The other previous recordings are in the agenda as a resource for the plenary. And I'll be adding that in the future. But just if you missed the Q&A and wanted to see it before the plenary, that is. All right. So our next report, I think I saw Paloma there. Yes. And thank you so much for this. I alluded to it already, Paloma, from because faculty have really, oh, wrong. I'm sorry. Maria's report first. Maria is. No. Sorry, I'm trying to get bigger and talk at the same time. All right. So webinar. Which is really nice to know about a record and follow-up for those who can't make those times. Okay, this is great. This is the calendar and I appreciate that Maria thought to tell us the timeline. It is coming to CPC next, so if anything changes, I could bring it back through. So that's the question about approving now, because it hasn't been at CPC, so I don't expect that that's on our agenda. We'll see it. And then we can make the decision then if we want to move it to action or wait until the 24th.
Is the calendar changing?
Just the 25, 26. No, it's
Stand what it is now.
it's basically a boilerplate. It's later on. And then sharing of the Ed Vision Plan priorities. It's a revision from the last. We had 5 originally and they've been revised to become 4 and bring in sustainability, which is the 5th one, into this 3rd one. Then you put our activities under that. Okay, great. We're doing that. We'll talk about that at the plenary. And then, okay, this is nice. I forgot about this one. So we may have some follow-up at the plenary for the last brown bag. Okay, and this reminder about commencement, we'll get lots of them. Okay, Beth, you don't have anything else to add?
So we don't plan, we're required to attend. Nelson.
Right, that's just polite language. If you don't attend, you should take a personal day. Full-time faculty, of course. Okay, Paloma, now I'm at yours, which I'm opening.
Sure, no problem. So mine is relatively short and sweet. Just a reminder, the Promise registration rally is next Friday. If you didn't sign up to volunteer, that's okay. Please still come out and support. If you did sign up to volunteer, thank you very much for doing so. We will keep you busy. I wanted to spend a little bit of time on the fact that the drop for non-payment process has been suspended for the fall semester. Below is the email that we just sent out to students this morning. This went out to all of Student Services on Monday, yesterday morning, since priority registration for the fall semester actually began yesterday. We wanted to make sure that Student Services had it. And the reason we didn't send it to students is because we were still waiting for the translation, which we got back this morning. And then I believe Maria also forwarded it to faculty. So I'm happy to walk through the suspension for the drop for non-payment and answer any question if folks have any questions. So the reason that we're suspending the drop for non-payment is because of the FAFSA simplification process. Essentially, yeah, whoever just chuckled, was that you, Kathy? Yeah, exactly. So essentially, because this process, the Department of Education has had very significant delays in rolling out the new simplified FAFSA, we actually are not able to determine students' financial aid eligibility. So if a student is eligible for the CCPG, formerly the BOG, based on their FAFSA, or if they have memoed aid based on their FAFSA, we can't determine that yet. And so those students who normally would not be dropped because they have aid memoed would be dropped if we did not suspend the drop for non-payment process. So this applies to any California resident. It applies to any out-of-state student who pays non-resident tuition. The exemption will not be applied for F1 visa and other international students because they are not eligible for FAFSA and so then are not, impacted by the delays that have been caused by the FAFSA simplification. Just really quickly, the F1 visa students are the students who participate in our ISSP program, our International Students Program. Other international students might be a student who is, for example, living in Japan, but taking an online course through SBCC. So they're not moving to the United States and they don't require an F1 visa, but they still pay international student fees. So those are the students who will still be dropped within the 7-day drop for non-payment period. What students can expect is we are still asking students to pay if they don't apply for FAFSA or don't qualify for FAFSA. The expectation is that they still pay upon registration. Students, as they're registering, will likely not see any financial aid awards on their student schedule and bill yet. Students are used to seeing that right away their financial aid is applied to their bill and their totals go down of what they owe. Students will not be seeing that yet, and so they will be seeing the full amount that they would normally have to pay if they weren't eligible for financial aid. And then as soon as we are able to start processing the FAFSAs and we have everything in place, we will of course notify students and let them know that their financial aid has been processed and applied. And if they still have any outstanding fees, that we will ask them to pay it as soon as possible. Because we don't really know when that's going to happen, and we didn't want to have it happen, say like August 5th, which would have been 2.5 weeks or whatever before the fall semester started, and then drop a huge group of students before the semester started. We decided it would be most student-centered and best all around just to suspend the process for the entire fall semester. So students will not be dropped for non-payment for the entire fall semester. If they don't pay, they will still have a hold placed on their account, which will prevent them from adding any further classes and will prevent them from registering for the spring semester. And an important aspect that I also want to add is that the suspension for the drop for non-payment does not apply to summer. So summer registration is based on the current year FAFSA. And so the impact of the changes because of the FAFSA are not impacting summer students. So the drop for non-payment is still in effect for summer registration. I hope that all makes sense. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has questions. And we're still encouraging students to do the FAFSA. Please still tell students to do it. There's a 27% drop nationally of students who are completing FAFSA because of this quote unquote simplification. It actually is a much better and much simpler FAFSA. It takes students about 10 or 15 minutes to do it. So we are still absolutely encouraging students to do it. There is help in the financial aid office. We have financial aid workshops. For mixed status students, that's students who are US citizens, but their parents don't have a social security number. California has said that those students can submit the California DREAM Act application until the FAFSA is prepared to support those students in a better way than they have been so far. That was a lot of information, so I'm happy to answer questions. I feel like I just sort of went like, blah.
No, it's all super clear and worth hearing, so thank you. Yeah.
Paloma, one quick question about summer.
Yeah,
So once summer session starts, they will not be dropped for non-payment. Is that true?
that is correct. So it's actually 7 days before the summer session. Let me clarify that. It's 7 days before the course begins. So if a student registers for a late start class, then the drop for non-payment is in effect until 7 days before the course begins. So it is course specific or CRN specific, depending on when the class starts. But yes, it is still in effect for summer.
I have one more question.
Yep.
Could it be 14 days before the class starts if we chose to? Is that a local decision in terms of the time?
Why would you want to do that?
So it is a local decision, and I will actually share with you that most colleges no longer drop for non-payment. And so this is sort of a forced opportunity for us to evaluate how this might impact our enrollment, our accounts receivable at SPCC.
Thank you. That's really exciting information to learn. All right. Any other questions? Yes.
I just want to say thank you for being more student oriented than we have shown ourselves to be in regards to this specific issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving to the liaison reports. Okay. So Stephanie has the job fair announced again. I think we mentioned it before. Very exciting, organized by CATS, FPSS.
I guess we can't ask any questions.
We can if it's quick.
The tutoring that we're getting compensated for, it's showing up on students' transcripts now. And I sent that email to the powers that be. And I think there needs to be some explanation sent out to faculty. And maybe the counselors, I know Joanne and I have talked about this, like, why is this showing up? Students should know when they're signing up for tutoring, like in the LRC, that this is actually gonna be a non-credit class and it's gonna show up on their transcript. Because otherwise it looks, I mean, we sort of knew what it was, but the students don't have a clue.
Beth, give us a quick
So
response.
it shows up on their non-credit transcripts.
Well, but
It
when,
doesn't show up on their credit
it's
transcript.
not true.
Yes, it is.
They're
It's a non-
official. They want to.
It's not on their official, but when we pull a transcript for a student to talk to them, it's showing up on their transcript.
But if they get an unofficial transcript, doesn't show up on it.
I have no idea.
And but the other thing that I wanted to say is that every student that logs in for tutoring, the first thing that they see is a pop-up page that explains the non-credit class. And not only explains it, but gives them the choice to consent or decline to be enrolled in it. So
Yeah.
if they say they don't know, it's because they
Of
learned that.
course.
And do with that.
Of course, because they're just getting on to consent like we all do with everything online. We just consent to everything to get past all the stuff.
And some of them do decline as well. Both, it's not that everybody just automatically. Or.
But I think it would be helpful to send a general sort of thing out to everybody. I mean, maybe nobody else cares. When you work with students and do advising and stuff and counseling like Joanne does, it's nice to sort of know. If they'll ask, if they look at something, they'll ask, well, what is that? And I tell them, it's not gonna hurt them. It was free. It gets the college money. So,
And that's what the pop-up says.
And that's also why we have liaison reports and senators. So share that information. Please. Thank you. Okay.
But I do have a quick follow-up, which is it possible that this will have a deleterious effect on students transferring to other universities? Is there any negative aspect of this? or no?
it shouldn't.
So do the non-credit transcripts go for transfer?
No.
So, yeah, parents to think that anybody would even know that this.
Okay, thank you.
But remember, we think going to tutoring is a sign of academic strength and success.
Well, no, I'm not against
No, I
it
just
at all.
want to name that when you ask that kind of question,
just-
people might think that.
I just think
Right.
it's important.
I'm just, just.
Yeah, but it's not part of it. All right.
And I would be happy to send something out to educate faculty more broadly about that dynamic. If you, which is other.
Well, I think it's important. I mean, and most faculty probably won't read it anyway, like most students
Okay.
don't read the thing, but it's okay.
Thanks, everybody.
You're saying you don't read my email?
Oh, no, I read all your emails. If it's-
Immediately.
Exception.
Oh, come on.
I would like total silence for this exciting moment of welcoming our new president-elect, Dr. Joshua Ramirez. And I asked Josh if he'd say a few words if he wanted to, so. Poor Joe.
Just wanted to thank Jordan for helping me with my thank you email following Kim's announcement about the academic senate agenda for today and for congratulatory remarks. So I really do appreciate that. Apologies for the delay in getting out my thank yous to the rest of the community. I was not on the all employee email list, so apparently I was BCCing the wind.
And they really appreciated it.
I just wanted to extend my thanks to Tara, to Elizabeth, and also Danielle. She's not here, but I got a chance to be able to talk with her personally. And to say to the rest of the members of the Senate, I look forward to working with all of you. I will work every day to be able to do right by all of you and by the campus. We do have some challenges ahead, but right now Kim is bringing me up to speed with every last meeting that she could possibly. And we're not done yet. It got just sunk in very, very quickly for me when she said, Josh has 8 weeks to be able to learn about all of this.
Now you have 6 weeks.
Now 6 weeks on top of, well, it's also a wonderful opportunity to get to know Kim and having wonderful conversations about comfort food, her taste in movies, and also her hip hop stylings from 2014, 2015's commencement ceremony. I'm afraid that I don't have her acumen for rap, but I'll try to do.
Maybe you should rap for us, Kim.
You guys got a sense of how much fun I'm gonna have as past president too, so there's a great reward. So thank you again, Josh, and everybody, and I just wanna thank all of you here too. I mean, Josh is coming into this wonderful community and he knows and feels that already, so thank you. We've had a really good year together. All right, so I already talked about these. I am obsessed with trying to put as much into the agenda as I can as a resource for you when you do your report, so that information is there too, except what was added from my report. This is if you have a health and safety emergency request, and unfortunately some do. You know, like ceiling tiles are falling on people in the rooms and, you know, there's like beds that don't work and stuff. So that stuff is there. So if you have that in your area, fill out this form, okay? All right, Tara.
I don't know. I think that one was linked in there, isn't it? In the report.
It is.
The safety committee?
Yeah, it's, no, it's here in this information item.
It's linked, there's a hyper. Oh, we went past that, okay.
All right, Tara.
All right, everyone. So this is just an announcement that we, as always, 'cause we're on a rotation of when senators begin and start their terms, that we have a few divisions that are up for their senator elections. So you see those listed, and I will be reaching out to those senators and helping to coordinate elections within their division. Unfortunately, they're all fairly easy because they're the primary seats. That's an election done by department chairs. It makes it a little bit simpler. And I will just share with you all that we will know who all of our new or returning senators are by May 10th, and I will announce that to you all then.
And they will be here to be seated.
We hope.
Actually. All right, thank you so much. I know that's a lot of work. All right, this is, I think, one of our least favorite duties, which is to update the documentation of full-time faculty service. It is required by our current AP to do this. I don't want you to just think it's, you know, for no reason. So you all have edit rights to this, and the goal is at the end of each academic year, since we have our schedule set, we should know what committees everybody is on. So thank you, and we'll be reminding you. This, I just love that Maria and Keller sent this out. So again, I treat our agendas as a resource, a location. I think eventually we'll probably have all of this in my SBCC, and agenda building will get a lot easier. But in the meantime, this is a resource for you if you ever want to find stuff. And I also put in the department chair minutes too, because a lot of great information comes out of the department chair meetings. And so, and when you work on your reports for your divisions, or if you just want to try to remember what the heck is going on, that's another resource for you. Okay, so we have a request from CAC and non-credit in particular. And this is another item for Tara. I don't want to sit. I'll just stand and use this first. I got it. All right. Great. The Zoom people won't see that. Yes, so I'll have to do that.
Folks on Zoom, can you see my slides?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, folks, thank you all for your attention. I will try to make this brief but informative. And I've come to you all here as a representative mostly for Corolla and for Jeanette, both of whom couldn't join us here today. But we've been working, that is, we being CAC, the Curriculum Advisory Committee, has been working very closely with non-credit to try to address some of the hiccups and challenges that they're having and finding folks who are eligible to teach some of their older adult courses. And in particular, as we'll see here today, that includes glassworking and stone carving. So I want to run you through an idea that we have at CAC after I reached out to the ASCCC president, Cheryl Altenbach, who I think knows me way too well now. And I think City College has a reputation for unique situations.
Yeah, she knows us
But I
well.
was able to inform her that everything worked out okay with our Senate president situation. So I've graciously got a lot of great ideas from her, and I'll share them with you all as a potential solution to some of the problems that non-credit is having. And that is using eminence as a minimum qualification equivalency. So let me explain what all of that means in just a couple of very quick slides. I don't know, for some of you, you may be like me and may not entirely remember what exactly a minimum qual is. The gist of it is it's spelled out in Ed Code that in order to teach a course here at a community college, be it credit or non-credit, or be it in the library, working with students and in counseling, for example, that individual has to meet certain qualifications. And those qualifications we often just refer to as the MQs. And you can see here that the way it works, it's sort of chain of information. It is established by the Board of Governors, but the Board of Governors gets their directions from the State Senate, and that's the ASCCC. So when we're working, when we are trying to figure out whether or not someone's eligible to teach a course, we refer to our handbook here on minimum qualifications, which runs through a list of disciplines that individual may have a degree in or may have professional experience in. And I shared with you all here, and it's also in the proposal on board docs, just those sections of Title V that spell out who is eligible to teach our courses or to work with students in the library and counseling. And you can see here that they have to have a degree from an accredited institution or a potential license or certificate. That's often found in like CTE, for example, and that's their accrediting board. But there's also this possibility that an individual may have a degree that's named something different than what is listed in the list of disciplines. And so that is why we also have an option too for equivalency, right? Or it may also be, for example, sometimes folks in my discipline in anthropology have a degree more specifically in archaeology, but they can do what we call here a crosswalk to get an equivalency. So just as an example, one of the things that we can do when an individual isn't finding their degree on the disciplines list, we can petition to the ASCCC to have them added to the disciplines list. Or that individual can try to find a close match on the disciplines list that they can do a crosswalk to. And so recently, the new additions to the disciplines list included Asian American studies and Native American studies. And previously it was simply just ethnic studies, but many different graduate programs will call it lots of different things. And if you think, hey, that should have been on the disciplines list a long time ago, I would agree with you, because the speed at which these get added to the disciplines list is, yeah, it's like my sloth here. It's incredibly slow. So when I spoke with our ASCCC president to say, how long would it take for us to get disciplines added to the disciplines list? She said, well, you prepared for it to take a while, because we worked with Asian American studies and Black studies and Native American studies for a number of years before we finally got them vetted and added to the list. So this is the way the disciplines list works. There are essentially 3 different categories that a discipline can fall into. One of the categories that many of us in this room are probably most familiar with is that the individual has to have a master's degree in the subject matter that they're teaching. And so that's true for most of our academic and transfer courses. So some examples could be like biology or history or math. But then we also have a second category that the disciplines list is sorted by, and that are those fields that there really isn't often the potential to get a master's degree in that area, but there are specific bachelor's degrees in that particular field. And so, or associate degrees. So in this case, that individual can have a bachelor's degree plus 2 years of professional experience in that area, or an associate's degree and 6 years of experience in that area. And some examples there could be folks who work in DSPS, ESL, and yeah, a fairly new one added to the disciplines list, and that's biotechnology. The last column is the one I want you all to pay close attention to, so I think it's most relevant for non-credit. And that is, again, areas where there really is very limited opportunities to do any kind of graduate training or receive a graduate degree in. And for this area, we would include having a degree in anything, essentially, plus if it's a bachelor's degree, 2 years of professional experience, and if it's an AA, 6 years of professional experience. And you can see here that some of the fields added to the disciplines list there include jewelry, ceramics, and plumbing. And there's a fairly long list of them. However, for us, 2 fields that are not on the disciplines list currently that are very, very popular here at SBCC are glassworking and stone carving. Those are not on the disciplines list. And when we look to see if there's something similar, the closest thing is art. Only art requires a master's degree because it's mostly used for transfer, for instance, and it's mostly used in credit. Okay, so for us, we do not currently have anything on the disciplines list, but you essentially have to be a unicorn qualified to teach this class. Actually, let me correct myself. And you're not really a unicorn, you're Bigfoot riding a unicorn that qualified enough to teach these classes. Because you have to have a master's degree in something like art, and you have to know how to do glassworking or stone carving, right? By the way, stained glassworking in particular became very popular during the pandemic. So it's like pickleball. It's one of the very, very popular things. So much so that we currently just this spring have 397 students taking classes in those areas. And so there's a high demand for these subjects, but again, we don't have folks on the ready, and we're getting to the point where the folks who currently teach these classes are about to retire. So what we are proposing is that in the long run, we want to add those disciplines to the discipline list. But in the short term, because it might take like a sloth's pace to get there, we want to be able to have these instructors have the possibility of going to the equivalence committee and saying, I would like to do an equivalency by saying I have eminence plus a degree plus X number of years of experience. And so eminence is not any longer codified in Title V. There's no definition of it. However, because of this reason, this glassworking, stone carving reason, many districts have eminence as a possibility. So it's not illegal to have eminence, but again, there's very loose parameters on what exactly calls eminence. By here at City College in 2016, we decided not to use it. Okay? And I would say that not using it makes perfect sense for our credit courses. Makes perfect sense because there's plenty of disciplines that people can crosswalk to. But however, we have found a gap in the disciplines list here for non-credit and older adults, particularly in glassworking and in stone carving. So CAC is urging us to give the green light to the equivalency committee to say that folks can apply. It doesn't say they necessarily will get it, but they have at least the ability to petition to do a crosswalk equivalency based on eminence. So the way that we would define it is we could use as a starting point the way it used to be defined in Title V. And so Title V defined in the past eminence as superior knowledge and skill in comparison with the generally accepted standard of achievement in the subject field, and should be based on the conviction that the applicant, if measured by recognized authorities in his subject field, would be judged superior. And the ASCCC has added some more tangible ways that they may have demonstrated that, say, potentially as being very famous or well-known or reputable in their field. That would certainly apply to our stone carving individual at the moment. They've won many art shows, for example, prize winners, national winners,
I
and
like
so
Dancing
forth.
with the Stars.
I know that's old
so
school, right?
stupid.
They're so old school.
That's just
But that is their recommendation. And what I would say that we should do is focus on this last category and say that eminence might be the crosswalk, but you need a degree in something. And if it's a bachelor's degree, then we need to have at least 2 years of professional experience in, say, glassworking or stone carving. And if it's an AA, then you need 6 years of professional experience in that stone carving or that glassworking. And when I spoke with both Corolla and Jeanette, these are the only 2 areas that they're really struggling with. Everything else they can do a crosswalk. So this is where they would like to focus. Again, long-term, want to apply to have these added to the discipline list, but in the meantime, retirement is at the ready. Bigfoot is getting ready to retire. We would have the ability for them to have eligible candidates to go to the equivalent committee. So we don't turn away 397 students. And
Thank you as always for amazing presentation, and I want to share, I was chairing the equivalency committee in 2016. We made that decision to not use eminence, and I had gotten to meet with Jeanette and Kayleen, and I am confident that it looks like a really good idea. Senate would recommend it, and then the equivalency committee that's chaired by the Senate president have that opportunity as needed to be sure to staff those classes and keep really careful records on how to make those decisions.
Can I ask one question in regards to that?
Of course.
Is there any talk, I know on the non-credit side, specifically in the electrical department, they have had a hard time filling a teaching position, as many of the electricians that might be interested might not even have a AA or bachelor's, yet they have 30 plus years of experience in the trade. So in any of those categories, it required, as you stated, some form of education. Is there talk at all in the non-credit side of recognizing X amount of years in a particular trade as a professional to, with a license potentially to accommodate or to count as their education?
that's a great question, and the answer is at the moment, no. However, if there was, say, for example, some kind of like certification program that they could go through, remember that is the second category of qualification, is that you might be certified in that area, and I know electricians have a certification process, so they might actually qualify using that second category of the disciplines list.
Okay.
Right, but maybe, and just encourage, whoever you're talking about with this to talk to the equivalency committee. We are really happy to just be an educational support and to help look at the kind of paperwork you might need. So don't assume it's a yes or no without asking that question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very supportive of this. I've been on the equivalency committee since it started, and we have had some non-credit people come to us with equivalencies, and we've just had no way to actually approve them, even though we've been very empathetic to their case, particularly in these types of disciplines. So I think this is really a good move.
What did you say to this list? Like, what stage is this right now?
Right now, we have started to capture the data or evidence that the ASCCC requires to have, to put forward a new discipline on the disciplines list. Once we get the data, then we have to get it on one of their plenaries, and then it gets voted on. So it takes a while because there's a certain number of semesters you have to be collecting data, and it's several. So we're in the middle, we're in the early stages of getting that data.
And the Senate has to pass that.
That's
And then
right.
it has to go to some others. You have to get some other senates to approve it.
That's right.
And then there's a 2 hearing stage that the
It takes
state
forever.
has.
So I'm gonna tell you a time check. This is something we could spend a lot of time on, so we need to make a decision for this item.
But are we, this is discussion. Are we moving this to action?
That is our option, so we can just put it on for our next agenda and vote on it then, or we could choose now if we feel, that's why it's listed as possible action. We felt if people didn't have concerns, we can approve it now, but if they do, we can bring it back, and I could give it more time. It's not here to have a full discussion now. It's been really vetted by CAC and experts, so it's whether the Senate wants to give it that time, and we don't have much more to it today.
Another question.
Sure.
Would this be the same as it is for credit? When someone is granted equivalency, it's forever and can move across. Let's, for example, in counseling, there's one person who had the equivalency, and so it was counted forever, and she could go into different areas of all counseling. It's as if she has a counseling degree. So would that be the same for the non-credit, and that it's forever and it could be transferable within non-credit?
I have no idea.
Only really to that discipline of the teaching. I mean, they can't just go teach any non-credit class.
It's because yours goes to academic counseling, which is a pretty broad category and involves different departments, and non-credit, these are small departments.
And it wouldn't be transferable from non-credit to credit?
No,
Could eminence be at all a concept that would also apply to credit?
no.
No. And the reason why is because it really isn't a need to, the discipline list is thorough enough to cover us.
So I've asked, my original question was like, where are we now? And so it's in the beginning stages, collecting data, got it. So what would we actually vote on?
So she's talking about turning glass working or stone carving into actual disciplines, and we wouldn't need eminence as an alternative. So we need this eminence to be able to continue to teach these classes in Santa Barbara.
It's a two-phase process. Right now, because it takes so long to get stuff added to the disciplines list, we have the option of using eminence as a min-qual equivalency for those instructors. But that's what we're voting on. Do we give the equivalency, the committee, the green light to consider that?
And I think we have to write that into our eminence policy.
right.
That is attached to our agenda. We would just have,
The original one.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd like to make a motion to move this to action.
I second that.
Okay, so Tara's usually my note taker on this, so Kathy made the motion and Katie seconded. Okay, I'm gonna just ask if anybody opposes or abstains, that'll be unanimous. So does anybody oppose moving it to action? Anybody want to abstain for moving it to action? My only voters on Zoom are Timmy. Okay, so unanimous pass to move to an action item. All right,
And I'll make a motion to approve this. Move forward.
Kathy made a motion.
I'll
to
second
approve it.
that.
Well, Rosabeth,
Sounds good.
I'll give
Right,
Rosabeth the chance to second.
Okay.
You guys moved it. Okay, so, all in favor, I'll do a raise your hands, all in favor. Or, okay, but then I'm also gonna double check, so I don't have to count. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you very much, and thank you, Tara, for an incredibly clear presentation on a complicated, topic. Okay, so we'll go back to share for our next item. Okay. So our next item is also maybe moved to action, but we don't need to. It can come back to our next meeting. The calendar is going through shared governance. However, it would be nice to get it done so it doesn't come back if you're comfortable. I'm trying to see, for some reason, I still see that it's being shared. So Timmy, can you still see the screen, share screen? Yes, you just did something better, Terry. Is it up? Of course. Okay, lovely. So I put the 2024 on as a reference. Nothing's changed. So this is a rollover, and as I think I mentioned at a previous meeting, yeah, in my report in March, we're gonna start talking about the calendar this fall for the summer of 2026 or 27, because a change to summer has huge ramifications for the rest of the semesters. So this calendar now does not include the summer start date. This summer for the next calendar, and again, I have some trouble with these kinds of dates, but this summer, when does summer start this time? A week later, right? Like
June 3rd.
June 3rd this time, but then next summer it's June 10th, 2025.
June 9th is
Let's see, I think
24.
it's on here, right?
Yeah,
Summer.
June 9th is.
Here we go, right. So in 2025,
June 3rd is 2024.
Yeah, so this summer it's June 3rd. Next summer, we moved it to June 9. We were trying to be closer to when the high
There's
schools
something
graduated, and then they
wrong
changed their calendar. So now they have 3 weeks in the winter and there's still no overlap. So we will have that decision if that's a big enough deal that we want to go back to some kind of 2 sessions or something, which may or may not happen. But that's why the June 9 or 3rd is not here. So this fall, we can make that decision about which week we start for 2026. And then I'm guessing if we want the bigger decision of trying to go back to 2 6-week sessions, that would be for 2027, because it will take us a long time. I was on the
It
calendar.
would be 2026.
Yeah, it's just unlikely, given all the categories. 2026, we can decide if it's June. That's why it's not on here. This calendar was not
It
saved. when
doesn't
it
have
started.
summer.
But going to 2 6 weeks would change them. You'd have to have a much earlier date than June. You have to go back. We used to start that in May. So, what's the will of the body? Do you want to just bring this back for consent next time? Do you want to move it to action today? It's the same calendar. That helps. But I'm not saying anything in particular. So I see no interest in voting today. You want to wait until the 24th? I'm not even getting eye contact out of this.
That's weird.
Because you're looking at the calendar.
I think it's because we've had a lot of, we have found lots of errors on the calendar in the past, and then we had to bring it back like 15 times to correct it. Maybe we could just have one more pass at it.
Beautiful.
On it.
All right, we'll go through CPC and we'll bring it back as a consent item for our next meeting. Okay, so time check wise, we are not doing great. But I did warn Justine and Johnson might be more of a half hour. So here we are at. Right. So this works, or if you want to stand, if you prefer. I can't go where. Can you start anyway? Like, I thought the thing you were sharing, that's not the main. And I think Josh is first. Josh, you want to go first? The reason he's going first is he's gonna get priority in time.
That's
You'll
fine.
come back, okay?
We had switched it because Josh always brings bad news and I bring good news.
That's sweet, okay, so if you want.
That's not a good sign.
No, please go for it, Josh. That's fine. Give us time.
We only have till about 4:25, I'll be super quick on the items between this and our time sensitive. Give me more.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead. So. Just double checking with all of our folks on Zoom, can you see my screen share? Okay, we go. Okay, thank you very much, I appreciate it. So, good afternoon, everyone. Just wanted to give you a couple of updates from the Teaching and Learning Committee. If you'll recall, when we resurrected the Teaching and Learning Committee and reformatted it, the Senate gave us 2 major charges. One of them was to be able to put together what we initially conceived of as a faculty mentor project, but it has been since reconceived into what we now refer to as the Faculty Connection, which Justine will be providing some updates for you shortly. And the other big one was to be able to work on an online certification process. Currently, we only have one that is loosely enforced on the books. Typically, it came down to the department chair often making a decision to assign someone to an online modality, and that there would be an understanding that this person would be shadowed by the department chair or another qualified instructor to be able to see them through their first semester in teaching online. But again, that's only been loosely enforced, and there are also questions as to what the qualifications are of that one more experienced faculty member in being able to serve as a mentor for that faculty member who's teaching online for SBCC for the first time. On top of that, we also have new hires who are coming in, who probably also come in with certification of their own as well. And so when we actually sat down with the FRC to actually talk about certification, turns out that we are very much behind other campuses. To give you an idea about just how far all of this went, I'm going to be sharing with you something that was shared with me by Rob. He is here with us today as well. I made sure to make a copy of some of the data that he had collected from other community colleges that have a formalized certification process as well. It is all over the board as to what other campuses actually do with their certification process, but that also says that we get a chance to decide internally as to what this looks like. So on screen for you as well. That's this one, all right. If you want to, there is a QR code that is provided for you. If you have your mobile devices, you might want to keep that handy. There are only some minor changes that I also included in a screenshot for you that will highlight what additions that I have made based on some of the feedback from our TLC members. So that QR code is available for you to be able to see the most recent version of the work in progress that we have for the certification process itself. What we actually put together has been adopted, adapted, and also amalgamated from several colleges and universities. Long Beach City College, Grand Valley State University, St. John's University, and College of the Desert. Some of these were also volunteered by Lori Vasquez as well. I just wanted to give her a shout out on this as well. As for some of the other sources of influence for what actually went into the certification form to which all of you are linked, we had a total of 31 community colleges that Rob brought to us, or Rob brought to our attention, just to be able to see how much detail that we could pull from other community colleges about what they do about their certification process. And I think that this is important for the rollout and also the messaging about the need for certification, because if you actually take a look at this, then they give us a strong summary about the variability with which faculty have to engage in hours of certification, how much this happens to overlap with the CVC OEI course design rubric, how much they also recognize faculty's past experience teaching online and also their past professional development as well. At a time where the faculty are being asked to make more sacrifices to do more work, I think it's important as part of the rollout for this to recognize the professional development and the experience that faculty have already brought to the table. Taking a look at this, I think it's always important to have an outsider's perspective. Sometimes when we live in a one college district, we can sometimes live in a bit of a bubble. And so consulting our colleagues at other community colleges can be helpful. Like for example, if we wanted to be able to make this a process for which faculty can do this on their own time with some more flexibility. Most of the colleges represented here have this training offered completely asynchronously, with options to be able to interact with peers as well to get some feedback about what they are doing for their courses. In terms of the amount of synchronous activity, only one of the community colleges surveyed here required that faculty actually participate in cohorts where they actually met live, on Zoom, or in person. In terms of the number of hours for total certification from Canvas Basics to DEIA training, the range goes anywhere from a low of 11+ hours to a maximum of 120 hours that faculty at other community colleges are doing for their certification for teaching online. I think that's an important piece also for the messaging, because I know there's a tendency to say this is another step in bureaucratic red tape that is being asked of instructors and that this is unduly penalizing those that are actually doing the work, but at the same time, 120 hours. These are community colleges that we all are familiar with. If you look at the names on the list, these are community college names that are well known throughout the system. And the idea that we are this far behind in formalized training in terms of the number of hours that we have some legwork to do.
Did you guys do any like looking into the courses or looking at the course reviews to see how, what the relationship was to more training to the actual course efficiency or a kind of level of success? Yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten a chance to be able to talk with at least a few of my counterparts and also our counterparts with the FRC in order to ask, was there any change in moving the needle on student success? The data obviously is going to be muddled. And unfortunately, as an intervention, you really don't know what is actually helping them, helping students to be able to move forward. But as instructors, the idea that we are doing everything that we can. I mean, the educational research, I'm gonna say it's more qualitative. Like my husband said, don't use the word soft science, use the word qualitative. Being able to figure out what the key variables are in moving students forward is very tricky. At the same time, look at what data that has been summarized for you here. If we are talking about the training having at least hitting some of the major points on the CDC OEI course design rubric, all of the ones that are highlighted in green and further down the list, with the exception of 3 colleges, they have massaged that course design rubric into their certification training. I think that's important because right now, when it comes to much of our faculty professional development, it is on an opt-in basis. And that means that a coalition of the willing faculty who are willing to do this work are going to get that training. But to be able to scale that up is going to be a challenge if it's done on an opt-in stipended basis. If it is rolled into the certification process, then that meets a lot of the legwork that, frankly, trying to do with the new Title V grant to be able to close equity gaps and to also make our courses available much more widely on the CDC OEI. Okay, so that's also one other thing. One may take a look at this initially as saying, oh, is this an enrollment scheme? No, it is an enrollment necessity. And on top of that, the idea that we would also be able to move students through the system, even if they cannot stay with us, for those students who decide mid-semester they cannot continue, there is a lot of flexibility in looking at all the courses on the CDC OEI exchange. Even if they cannot finish that particular course with us, they are making progress towards degree attainment and towards transfer. Every single student retained, every student that we move forward as far as our funding is concerned, is considered a success on the part of the campus. And so being able to be CDC OEI ready, I think is a priority for the campus. And also there's a message that we can send that says, you are already doing a lot of this work. This is supposed to try to recognize a lot of the work that we have already done. The waiver process is there to be able to acknowledge faculty's previous experience and their professional development, wherever that comes from, whether that's in-house or the journals that faculty are reading or the conferences that they are attending. And also Canvas basics, except for a few people that didn't actually take that training to teach online at the beginning of the pandemic. That's probably one of the things that you can check off the list. So a lot of us are already doing this one. Yeah, sorry.
So, well, I just want to throw in response to the question about research, that even though I don't know of any studies that show that certification itself moves the needle, there are a couple of studies that show that curricular alignment moves the needle, and to the degree that the certification processes are built to overlap with the curricular alignment, I think we would expect some effect there. And also our modality gap is still where it was a long time ago.
Yes.
And other colleges, as they have introduced online certification, have brought their modality gaps down. So there's some reason to speculate that there's a causal relationship there.
Probably one of the more comprehensive studies that speaks to that was in 2015 by Ray Cobb at Cabrillo College, that identified some of the challenges with the equity gaps for students who experience a digital penalty. It affects students of color, particularly male students of color. That was back in 2015. We haven't really closed that equity gap. And so trying to see whether or not poker alignment will help. That's something I'm keeping an eye on. And also Texas. Texas also has a 3-tier system, just like we do in California. We are much further ahead, but they are conducting a 3-year study to see whether or not online certification can help students who are looking for an online alternative. As for what the other community colleges offer, I tried to highlight these in bold for you as well and to outline for them for you in gray some of the features that we are most interested in. There are lots of pieces that we already have. They have in-house trainings. They allow for Act 1 trainings, which we already have access to. And also they allow for other certification as well from other campuses to apply here. As for what other campuses are doing, just skipping ahead, we are inviting a team from Ventura County Community Colleges District to be able to meet with us over Zoom for our all TLC meetings. They have opted to allow us to take a tour of their entire certification process. And one of our new hires, Denise Cedillo, her partner, has already participated in this himself, and we're inviting him for a panel discussion too, because it always helps to be able to have at least some voices from outside the campus. The campus community can't know what it doesn't know until we actually say, this is what other community colleges are doing. We are behind administratively, but in terms of all the pieces that we need in order to carry this forward, we have many of the pieces. Roosevelt, please.
So you mentioned maybe we shouldn't require online instructors to do the Canvas basics. I would like to present a different viewpoint because I've been using Canvas since we first started and Moodle before that and teaching online during the pandemic. I thought I kind of knew most everything with Canvas. And just this semester, Rob said, hey, have you done the Canvas basics training? I said, no, I went through it. I knew a lot. I did not know it all. Nice to know I don't know it all. But I did learn some things with my experience of all the trainings I have been doing, the poker, everything I've been trying to do to be a great online instructor and to be equitable and to do my best for our students. I did not know everything that was in that Canvas basics training.
I think anybody does, except for maybe our colleagues at the FRC, especially when it comes to accessibility. But that's also one of the reasons why we also included a little stipulation here that revisiting that Canvas basics training will be important. And if there is these kinds of substantial changes to the LMS, or if we should move to a different learning management system, then you may need to read it.
So I missed that point. You said we should go back and revisit the basics certification. Okay.
The good news is it's already sitting on the VRC and anybody can sign up. The challenge, however, will be also in trying to consolidate all the trainings that we have. Certification process was actually conceived as a 2-tier process. One, most people have already done Canvas basics. The other, in line with changes to Title V and requirements for DEIA competency, and also being able to say, can you demonstrate this online? And also learning how to articulate for ourselves what our practices are to be able to meet CAC's requirements for the equity tab and those questions that we do ask of people when they do course modifications. All of that could be rolled in. So when I surveyed all of the community colleges that Rob had collected here, we touched on almost all of these, except for one area out of the Peralta Equity online rubric, which we can reconcile with the CBC OEI, that is area E6, that requires that faculty teach students how to be able to recognize bias in the curriculum that they teach. So the form that we have here is a work in progress, but the members of the Teaching and Learning Committee have been hard at work trying to fine tune this a little bit more. There's an option that is provided for you to be able to at least acknowledge that you have done tier 1 of this training, that is basic Canvas basics. But then there's also tier 2 training, which is much more focused on pedagogy and also from an equity standpoint as well, trying to infuse DEIA into our online teaching. This list, Lori took a look at and said, Josh, is there a way to be able to consolidate all of these trainings? And I think that would be a good move. There are some challenges, however. Some of these were funded out of Title V grant funding. Others are situated in non-credit And so trying to figure out how to be able to manage all of this while we have different compensation models for what is what these are. And also how they are facilitated differently. The training that I run, I've converted into an all asynchronous training. But Matt Mooney's is sort of a hybrid, and then there's Carrie's, which is much more involved for 2 cohorts that she is actually running. So trying to figure out a way to be able to reconcile all of these is going to take a little bit as well. The other thing that we are doing as well, we are providing links. Gonna try to summarize this a little bit more concisely, but to give you an idea about just how many things that you could find in the CVC OEI course design rubric, that's all listed for you here. At least for one of our trainings, we have mapped out how that overlaps with the requirements of the CVC OEI course design rubric, and also where that meets the Peralta Equity Online rubric. But this is not what's going to appear on those links. If I know anything about trying to advertise this to you, you show this to the faculty, they're gonna freak out. Because this is way too much to be able to summarize for them at a glance. Lori had another suggestion, specify this in terms of the number of hours. Time is everything to the faculty, so specifying it in terms of the number of hours to complete all of this. And to say, if you are interested in seeing what areas that these trainings happen to hit on, then here are the areas that you can look at as well. And then one other thing that I wanted to include here, this is not on the document that is that you are currently linked to. It was getting at what Kathy O'Connor wanted.
Oh, yeah? What the hell did I want?
I wanna retire. You're not allowed. Oh, no.
Best ideas that you introduced here. The idea that we don't share our teaching practices. And so one option, because having talked with SAE and members of the FRC about, do we want, if people are coming in with certification of their own or other professional development outside the campus, do we want some evidence that they have incorporated this into their teaching? Give a screenshot of what you've done in Canvas, send us a lesson, a sample assignment that you were doing. Can we archive that?
Right.
And immediately scaling this up, because anybody who's applying for a waiver would also have an option to be able to say, yes, I want to share this, yes, with some reservations, can you take my name off this? Or can we dialogue about this? Or no, I'm not ready to at this time. But it's an opportunity to be able to appeal to the entire community that's going to want to try out this waiver. And apply for a waiver of some or all of the requirements for certification to see if they are willing to share their practices. And maybe even to archive that on the site that we have for the faculty connection that Justine is getting.
So time check. Reminder that this is a lot to take in. I will attach this updated presentation. Probably I'm here at the end. And I know that you guys have worked so hard for so long, and so many members of this committee. So are you guys good now to move on?
You'll be hearing more from us regardless. I'm going to be meeting with the FA and HR also, because we're trying to see if this is a requirement that can be rolled into faculty responsibilities. We need to go over that, get over that hurdle. As well, we have an all TLC meeting with a visiting team for the Ventura County Community College District. And although Kim and I had some questions as to where the rollout for the communications on this will actually live, we decided ultimately to present this in a panel discussion with CPC, bringing in members of the TLC, COI, ITC, the FA, the FRC, CAC, if you will, Tara, Senate rep, and also the administration, Dr. Erica Jonas, or Erica's designee as well. So any other recommendations that you could throw in our direction? Proceed. Thank you.
How much of this has to go through negotiations with the FA?
I'm sure all of it. But that's why I reached out to Cornelia. We are meeting on the 19th.
Correct.
I'm gonna let you start. I'm gonna try to get that up for you. Okay, so just ignore the screen, you guys. Ignore everything I'm doing.
So you'll see in the attachment, just it's very text heavy, but I copied the emails that we found the last couple of months about the faculty connection. So you've seen some of it is now just the purview of folks who have officially registered to participate in the connection, so maybe some of this you haven't seen. The one thing I wanted to highlight quickly is some key ways in which the concept for the faculty connection has evolved since the last time we were here to present. So originally, this was being funded through the EEO grant. And originally, we were going to pay participants the hourly stipend to participate in connection meetings. And then the work group that is steering this project, you'll see all of our names in attachments there. Things evolved and we had this really powerful meeting. I don't know, maybe we were just feeling a little loopy. It was very early on a Friday morning. And there was this moment where I was looking at, because we were trying to figure out like if we have more participants than we do money, who do we prioritize? And then finally, we were looking at the intentions that we had just written. And one intention that we had added was this is going to be a place of reflection practice, a place for pausing, slowing down, healing for some of us. And this came from us realizing this is what our group was doing for each other. And we looked at each other and we're like, why do we have to get paid to be in relationship with each other? Because it felt like so counter to the intention of what the faculty connection has now evolved to. So we made the decision to take it's honestly a very small amount of money that the grant is giving us for this project. And we are using that money now to fund food for social gatherings. We all have food, gets people there, right? And then we're reserving the money for folks who are in the connection, are forming groups, whether small groups or one-on-one, and through their collaborations, a project emerges. A project that takes a little more time. It would take maybe some resources for, running a study with students, something like that. You need some sort of supplies, or a project that would take a lot of person hours to really do it well. And so we're going to create a process for folks to apply to the TLC for funding for kind of larger projects. And then the idea is those with.
I did get this class up.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want to scroll through any of this.
I'm good with it. They can see it. Yeah, so the intention is this repository. It's sounding like lots of people are looking for repositories now. And maybe the faculty connection can be a place for that. All right, so that's kind of the way our intentions have shifted just a little bit. We want to be very transparent about the money aspect.
So are the only people that can get onto the Canvas site are the people who have officially joined the connection?
Yes, and once we get a little more sophisticated about it, we have talked about maybe just some of the general pieces could be open to everybody, but then the bio pages are just open to the participants. There's maybe a way we could open up part of it for the whole campus.
Is there a commitment of time that people have to commit to being a part of the connection?
There is not. So this is the page that I would like to take some credit for building it, but it's mostly our webmaster, Josh Ramirez over here. We just wanted to show you how beautiful it is. I can brag because I didn't make it.
This is a mock-up, by
It
the
is a
way.
mock-up.
Most of the faces that you're seeing that we do not have permission.
Yeah.
Purely presentation purposes.
So I guess we will replace this with video or pictures of people in the faculty connection doing their thing, doing the connecting, but these were things that Josh found online for free. And we're like, put them up there because it looks cool, right? All right, so we have, I love this. Each one of the members of the work group, we took headshots one Friday morning and we each have a statement kind of purpose, like why we want to be a part of this. It's really beautiful. Yeah. We have our purpose of statement here, our intentions. And then this will be a place where we can, well, we actually have this twice now, our repository and resources. We still need some clearing up. Instructions for how to participate, and then this will eventually be our bio spot where each person has their bio that you can link to. And then there will be a discussion board for just ongoing, like, how do we connect issues that are emerging. This I was excited to share that with you all. Any questions about this? Any suggestions before our kind of official launch? We're hoping to open the page on Friday after our last work group meeting. There's about 45 folks signed up for now, and we're still kind of thinking about, you know, do we open this up for new people every semester? We're not sure about that. Still evolving, but recommendations, feedback, comments?
I have one quick comment. I attended the connection a couple Fridays ago, whatever that was, and made the connection with Winky. And she is in teaching early childhood education. And I said, I have some great yoga that will help calm the kids down. So she and I met at lunchtime one time. We discussed it. I showed her what I knew. She's like, this is great. So I think the next step we're talking about is possibly I'll present to her class of students who are going through the class she's teaching. Because kids can get a little wild, unlike our students. So it's good to calm them down. So already just that collaboration,
That's the intent.
just from, and it was only what, an hour and a half or 2 hours that Friday. So yeah.
Yeah. That's what we're hoping for. Absolutely. I was in a really privileged space yesterday with some colleagues. Josh was there, where we had 2 hours to go around and share a particular practice in our classroom around something very specific, and it was mind blowing what some of our colleagues are doing. We just don't have the time to share. So that's just kind of one of the intentions around. Right, thank you all. We actually finished on time.
Christine,
Yeah,
super quick
yeah, yeah.
question. So do you guys have regular meetings? Is it like every 2 weeks?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so the TLC will continue. I think for right now, it's gonna be monthly. We will host a meeting where we're choosing a theme, and anybody in the connection can come. And then each one of the members who is on the work group for the connection is gonna kind of be a host for small groups, and they'll kind of meet on their own schedules as well. And that's sort of like this layered thing. And then there's the like really personal layer, like you can just reach out to anybody in the connection and do your own, you know, one-on-one thing. So that's kind of the layered model. We'll be announcing our first things.
So it is open now or it's closed for this year?
You could still, if you're like super jazzed after hearing this, we'll take, yeah, that's fine.
So the attachment has
yes,
that link.
Yeah, the form is still technically open. Yeah, or another thing I would really encourage some of you who've been here longer, newer faculty or part-time faculty, we really encourage them to join up for this kind of thing. This is really a space for catching folks that maybe fall through the cracks in other ways, and giving them community. So yeah, especially those folks, encourage them to stay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
All right. So we're gonna try to go really quickly through these two. So
I know,
we should part I did ask Dean with our guests and find for me, everyone's like that. So for this item, I'm just gonna see if Cornelia wants to add anything. Dang, okay, so a week from today, we are having the plenary. It was originally gonna be April 3rd, and it got changed, which is good. That was the Wednesday after break. So this is a layout from kind of background on the focus of this plenary. It is in person. So if you can't attend, ask a friend to go and take your thoughts and bring back your thoughts. We will be continuing. The Senate will be a venue to keep talking, the brown bag. We're trying to just surface a lot of different ideas. So it's going to be an important opportunity to talk. There's both, oh good, Cornelia, I wanted to see if you have anything to add, 'cause I'm trying to go pretty fast. The details are here to read. There is a first practical thing for the FA Constitution. The FA is going to give us important budget concepts. And then it is really important to recognize that this productivity focus is something that faculty and administration committed to in 2017. So yes, it has been
Many years.
it's a really long time. So I think
First there
we
was
just need to
COVID
realize
and
this has been coming out of the blue. It's just been a hard thing for administration to support and work with us on. And of course, then COVID hit. We did have quite a few years before COVID and it still wasn't happening. So it's an important background to recognize that the college has long been worried about its fiscal stability with such low productivity numbers. So there's gonna be a brainstorm about individual actions, and I did decide I'm leaving, and I'm okay making this call. On the individual level, I really, really encourage all faculty who have the bandwidth, the space in their room, and don't have safety concerns for their classes, to over-enroll a little bit. The core cap is a minimum, so you can make your class size bigger if it can work out in your life. I have the privilege of getting to teach under load next fall because have some bank tail use and I want to try to have a balanced life, but within that, I can still add 3 to 5 students to each of my classes. Every person who can do that will make a difference to serve students and increase their productivity. That's not a solution, that's a stopgap as we work together and look at Luke's offerings. As we pay attention to any other kinds of innovations we can make to try to increase our productivity and again, to get our FTS higher, to get us closer to our original size so we can start to qualify for COLAs and that kind of thing. And Cornelia will talk a lot more about that at the plenary. I just wanted to publicly name, not everybody can come to this, that I've spent a long time this last year, different meetings and looking at all these things, and our productivity is too low. It's not acceptable. So we're gonna have to work together on that, and we will. Want anything else for today?
Yeah, maybe I would like to add that this is a really important meeting. We intentionally scheduled it as an in-person meeting. The discussions are probably not easy ones, so we felt that it is just better to be in a room and not just on Zoom. We understand that this is an extra effort, especially for people who are not already on campus. Please come, please encourage everyone to come, full-time, part-time, faculty, but please faculty only. I know all the managers got the email as well, because that's just the way it works with our email list, but this is a faculty, strictly faculty only meeting. I also promised that the FA business part is limited to 10 to 15 minutes, promise. And then we will be talking, I will provide a short presentation about budget, as short as I can, but informative as needed. And then the rest of the time will be available for discussion and ideas and brainstorming and whatever is needed. So please come and please encourage everybody to join.
Yes, I love that.
Is this gonna be a problem with the PRT?
No, okay, thank you for asking. Yeah, that was why we originally preferred the 3rd, just for overload, so I'm probably gonna be incredibly loopy. But the PRT visit is via Zoom, 4 to 5 hours, and it will definitely be done by 2 o'clock. So, again, because of time, this is all loaded in for you to see. So what did happen since I made the budget, is that we did get the move email from Dr. Androjana. So the menu of options.
It's her summary, PRT.
It's not her summary. The menu of options is the team, the visiting teams, list of primary successes, and menu of options for institutional consideration. So on April 17th, there's going to be this follow-up meeting with the team. So what I can tell you now is that if you're interested in this, come to the next CPC. That is on Zoom and anybody can go and watch. That's where we'll discuss. That's gonna be the only real opportunity for us to talk about this before meeting with the team on the 17th. Every group has representatives there. We have a meeting tomorrow morning at 8 to hear if they recommend that we invite other people who were there on March 4th. We didn't know that was gonna happen, or we would have tried to get this sooner, because I know people's calendars are insane. So it's between 9 and 2 on Wednesday, and we will do our best to invite people. If it doesn't work and you have any feedback, we'll try to let you know the nature of that feedback, but really coming to CPC would be a good shortcut. It is convenient, it's on Zoom. That's next Tuesday from 3 to 4:30. And I haven't read this yet, but it looks like there's gonna be a lot of important things here. I did read their first summary, and I just want to remind, because this just came out last night, I just want to remind everybody that, the purpose of this is to rebuild our, especially our planning and resource allocation processes through program review, but also our practices for participatory governance. So it has been a challenging year, it's been a challenging 10 years. So this is an opportunity, and there will be chances for feedback again through CPC, and then the plan that we'll be writing will also come through governance. But it is really more at the CPC level. So you have Tara, myself, and Jamie are our primary work group members for writing, but I'm gonna find out on Thursday. I think we can involve more faculty who were at that first meeting. So we'll be more. Okay. So I always put this if time item and think it will never happen. Okay, any other questions? All right, great. Okay, so I want to do a really urgent brief, what?
It's okay.
Sure.
Jamie Campbell, okay.
You didn't know that? Okay, all right. So anyway, this is a item that has less to do with the particular content of a wayfinding app, although it matters because a lot of people built it and put a lot of work into it. However, that work can be captured in other ways. So it's also really a reflection of the last year of the Senate and your leaders often feeling like we were the last to hear about a lot of important things, whether it was Antioch, whether it was the blue economy. There were faculty, but like 1 or 2, and just, you know, whether it was Follett, which we are still processing, although I understand we had to do it. So it's really just when and how people are informed that these kinds of things are being discussed. So that is a larger question. So this is a moment of me representing the faculty voice, in that we had a faculty leader who came to steering, Margaret, to share her work with Guided Pathways. And your steering members felt this was something to get to talk about and put on the agenda. And so Dean was my past president. He knows this side of the aisle. He's now on EC, and they talk about lots of things that we don't often hear about. And that's the job. That's why they're administrators and we're not. And of course, 10+1 is really specific about our responsibilities, but in terms of a culture of informing and opportunity to give feedback on decisions before they're made, this was an opportunity to do that. So I got to write this agenda item, shared very late on Sunday. So Dean, I want to make sure that you have any other ideas that you want to provide as context. The 2 things that we're really thinking about is, you know, is there another way to sunshine certain things that affect a lot of us that we could learn from this? And then also whether or not it's not up to us really, but if we feel strongly, do we want to ask for more time to play with or pilot this particular app until SBC sees current app? I don't even know if it's there. So it's sort of like, it's a practical question too, because the app is really great for wayfinding, but it's also kind of this opportunity to hear about things before they're decided. So that's my context. Dean's going to give some. Does anybody else from steering want to add anything? Or Margaret, do you want to add anything from that? Like, I think I've given the faculty side, but in case I left anything out, you'll have another chance. Okay, so Dean,
Should I come up there?
please, yes, thank you.
Okay, so, some notes, so I'll refer you to, just so I don't forget something. So I guess, we'll start with, I can't represent EC. EC is, I'm on EC, but EC is the senior management of the college and it is the president's meeting. So I would feel very uncomfortable trying to represent EC as a whole. That really, I don't think I can do that. that. So those kinds of questions about EC's processes are EC's, and I think as the president, you could bring those up with Erica in your one-on-ones. I think that's probably the most efficacious way of discussing issues. So I'm probably not going to talk about how EC does stuff. However, I can talk about the wayfinding app because I am involved in that. And I was heavily involved in the decision to not continue working on the app. And there's two separate reasons that we came up with about this. And one of them, I lumped into IT reasons, and the other one is lumped into more kind of overall reasons. And so first off, for the overall reasons, the app was always intended to be a pilot. The app was never meant to go into production. And it won't go into production, I can tell you that right now, because we already have an app. You can go to it right now if you want. The only thing we're working on is accurately uploading all the users. That's the last little piece to stop it from being released. It's called provision. So provision users into the app. We need to make sure we can always capture, in particular, all our students. So the minute they join us, they should be able to have access to this app because it is kind of a gateway to some of our services. And as a matter of fact, the intent is to lean hard into the app to help surface a lot of our services so students can actually interact with the services themselves directly. As a matter of fact, I met with DSPS yesterday, I think it was, talking about how we can actually put a widget on the app for DSPS students to go ahead and access those services right away, rather than kind of making their way through the menus like they do now in Pipeline, and also how they would do when the app was constructed. Currently, the app has basically a duplication of all the links that are on Pipeline. So if people want to find something, they can kind of use the old Pipeline links if they need to. But we're also hoping to surface more things to make it a lot more useful for students. I'm happy to come back later to show you guys, take you through the app again. I think it came a while ago.
So we can get it right now on our phone.
You can go right out
Is
and find
that
out. Get
the
it.
same one that we've had for a long time? The SBCC app that we've had for a long time?
Well, okay, that actually points out to one of the problems, and that is there are two SBCC apps. Actually, if you type in SBCC on the search, there's three, but one of them belongs to the church, which is not affiliated with, right now. So there's actually two SBCC apps. That's part of the problem, is that it's confusing.
Which one is?
So which one is it? The right one?
Well, the one that says my SBCC, it's that one.
I have SBCC mobile.
This is my
This one.
SBCC.
That's,
The other one's the.
oh, and the lifestyle is the church.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate confluence, but it's what it is. Apple won't listen to me, so they'll listen to me. So that's kind of one of the reasons. Also, there was no budget to sustain the app going forward. Again, because it's a pilot, that makes sense. Usually they're fixed times of, they're fixed projects, so they start at end time. And so there was no budget to continue the app afterwards. Also, as a pilot, pilots typically have metrics for how they're successful, and a download metric is probably the weakest metric you can have. What you want is a use metric, and as far as I know, there isn't any data about use metrics. I have not seen any. There could be. I don't know if that's more about that, but we'll have to see. And then again, there's also no integration with other systems in the college. So, for example, Banner is our student information system. And on the app, if the student, one of the most common things I was asked when we went into this whole project, and there was a lot of involvement from across the campus on selecting our particular system that we use for the app, and that is students never know their K number. That's like the number one thing I heard over and over again from many faculty, counselors, everybody. And so in the app, when the student logs into the app, it actually has their K number front and center. So that kind of solved a real big problem we've had for many years about students not knowing their K number, which is pretty helpful. The IT reasons. So IT reasons wise, I looked into the app a lot more closely. And so the way that the app does wayfinding is it just uses a link to a destination and uses the phone's normal map to do the actual wayfinding. So we can replicate that functionality easily using links on the website if we want. So it's not a particularly unique functionality because it uses the phone's map functionality. So I think that's something that we could actually replicate pretty quickly. And the content itself is also very well presented, I'll give it that, but it also is something that a lot of us kind of copied off the website or repurposed on the website. So we can in fact move that stuff to the website if we want to. And then lastly, of course, this is actually a pretty major point, and that is it's not going into production because we only need one app. And the kind of functionality that it has is nothing unique that we can't do in our current app. It's not done currently right now, but it would actually, it's something we can actually do with the app. I also think that, when we do go to implement this kind of functionality in the app, and that has to be a part of a larger conversation around facilities. So we're having this facilities conversation right now. Wayfinding is a problem, has been a problem for many, many, many years. And we'd like to have a coherent way of solving this problem. For instance, if you want to have finely granulated locations, there are ways of doing that through a mobile app using Bluetooth, low energy. Yeah.
If you're still want to finish the IT part, do you want to ask about the functionality of the app and something that I think the current wayfinding app does that actually
Okay.
until you're done.
Sure, go ahead.
So my question is, it looks to me like our app would have to have a pipeline.
Yes.
And to me, the magic and excitement of this app is that it's for anybody. And again, I don't want to interrupt the other priorities you have in mind, but I kind of feel like this is a chance for exploration and outreach to the community. And so it seems premature to say the one that you get through pipeline, that's everything. I think kind of a more casual outward facing for the public wayfinding app is actually a pretty interesting thing to explore.
Well, I think we already have something that's a casual outward facing thing, and that's the problem.
Okay, that's the kind of thing I would love the chance to see. This is the question, Dean. This is the issue. We would like to agree, and we don't even ever have to agree, but we haven't had the chance to talk about our experiences with our students, with our community. And that's what's missing, in my opinion, and that's why steering asked to bring this. And that's why there's we keep saying it's never going into production, that exists, it could be paid for about 3 months, 6 more months. If administration and especially IT apparently, and Jordan's office is interested in collaborating with us on that. And we understand if you're not, we're never gonna talk. But that's the issue that I want to voice.
Yeah, I would kind of like to push back on that
Please
area
do.
a little bit, and that is, the PI had been talking with their supervisors through this project.
Who's PI?
Margaret is the
What is-
PI,
what is a PI?
primary investigator.
Sorry, okay.
Yeah, so,
Private. Oh, wow, this is exciting.
primary investigator. So the person doing the project, so the person doing the project has been speaking with their supervisors, and that is the proper channel for those kinds of feedback, that kind of feedback. So I'm not sure having EC bringing that whole thing, that big decision to EC is.
So I think it would have been CPC or, different groups. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying, please don't assume that I'm thinking that EC is a participatory government. I'm not. You trained me, I got that. But the fact that the channels we do have, I don't agree that Margaret talking to her supervisor is it wasn't even, it's not even experienced that way. So that chance for all of us who work with students and have our connections with the community to hear about this conversation does not happen from March, and Margaret waited a long time, was being told, oh, this may or may not happen. We finally got to know, I don't know, we were wondering before the March 6th hearing, and we thought maybe yes, and we finally did get a no after that. So this is our first chance after the decision to have it be something that other people. So I think that's the PI doesn't, that structure doesn't seem to work in terms of that feedback.
So Columbus got our hand up, so I'd like to bring it into the conversation.
Great.
So I just want to comment on the last thing that you said, Kim. This was not a new conversation. This was a conversation that we actually began having in the summer. And the information that was provided did not change. There was a consistent answer that had been provided and communicated since this summer regarding the app. So if it was communicated that there was no answer until March, I think that there is some misunderstanding of how those, I'm concerned by that comment, I guess I should say.
I appreciate that. So maybe the correct framing would be that I think there was waiting for the chance for different kinds of input, and that might be misunderstanding from both parties, because the decision made in the summer, again, where do we go with that? With the decision made in the summer in terms of the chance to give feedback. In the summer, there were, I believe, posters printed to promote it. There was a flex workshop that
Right.
originally Dean would go to and then wasn't. So, you know,
I mean, Kim, you know, maybe this is a conversation that you and Margaret and I should have. Because we had a meeting in the summer regarding the flex workshop specifically.
I think it's not so much the past now, it's sort of the present. And I think that's true for so many things. We've had a lot of bumps in the road as we try to come back together as a community to collaborate and brainstorm and share our thoughts. So I think the past narrative is going to be really shaped by many other factors. And so I hear you, and I think there's probably just a lot of misunderstanding. And I apologize for any part I may have had in that. I think what we're looking at now is just sort of is going forward. And even if it is the answer, that's it. We will just try to learn for the future. But again, I think the thing I'm most interested in is the public facing idea. And I'm just confused why that wouldn't be something to experiment with for 3 or 6 months. But it doesn't really matter that much. What really matters more to me is understanding in the future when we have new projects and they're going to go away. Grant funding goes away, things end. So what are the opportunities to try to incorporate what we can from those projects and when? And I do feel this one is uniquely complicated.
And I will add that over the past year or so, Maria, Margaret, and I have been working really hard to try to incorporate a lot of the priorities and projects and initiatives in Guided Pathways. It's not easy, you know, because the funding is limited. And so we're really looking at how we can transition a lot of these projects and initiatives into other departments and into other programs where some of this work can be and should be done. And, you know, things may change. Things may not look exactly how they're going to look, but that's the work that we've been really trying hard to do over the past year. And I think we also need to prioritize which are the activities. You know, Margaret has done a lot of really great work with Guided Pathways. And so it's really important that we prioritize which are some of the projects and initiatives that have had the most impact and the most benefit for students. And I think those have been the top priority in trying to determine what we're going to quote unquote institutionalize and how we're going to move forward with some of these projects.
And I know we've only got 5 minutes left in Paloma. I'm not sure if you were at our March 13th meeting. I gave an introduction to the incredible work I feel you and Maria are doing. It is very challenging to incorporate it. And Margaret has also really felt that she's collaborating with you and that you are really working hard to incorporate what you can. To me, this is different because it's done for now. And again, I'm not super arguing for this. It's also sort of this bigger picture. It's an extra complicated situation. And so I wanted the Senate, and then this could be separate from you. So I want to finish if there's anything else that Dean didn't get to finish on the IT part, because it's my understanding is pretty much built. It wouldn't be any work. And we could use small amounts of the Guided Pathway money to fund it for 3 to 6 months if we wanted to. If that's wrong, that's information.
So I just want to take a moment and say, Dean just said, we have identified by finding a way to keep this fund. We've also identified that we're currently in facilities master plan to move things around and figure out what it's going to be working best. And we can utilize our website, which will be no different than an app. When you go on your phone, you can pull it up through Chrome to then help with wayfinding.
So you mean people who don't have a pipeline account?
Can go to
Get
our
to the
website.
website.
Yeah, we can build that up. So there's lots of other solutions than having a specific app.
So what are you really asking us today?
As written, one was just have this opportunity think about what we might learn from this for future participatory governance questions, because I feel like maybe this could have been surfaced in another forum. But then also whether or not we care about asking, and it's out of time now, I think we need to bring it back if we want to.
Yes.
We have plenty of, well, that, we'll see, but so those were the two parts. I wanted the chance, this was a tough challenge for us, you know, so I just wanted the chance to, Siri wanted to bring this, so you guys know what we had been through. And then, we wanted to understand, have the chance to hear why, since we don't have this now, why don't we want to use this until we do build these things that we don't have for the wayfinding? So, so right now, somebody go on a website and find stuff.
I mean, currently, all we have is our campus map, but we want to follow the process of a facilities master plan. To see where things go around, and then we can start looking at.
Okay, but that's like years from now, the facilities master plan. So that is so we can just sort of have we can agendize it again to talk.
I don't, but can I understand why this group needs to agendize something my team and IT can make happen? I'm just confused. It was like.
I'll let somebody else jump in, and again, I want to make sure Dean finishes the IT information, it's 4:59. Did you get to hit?
Yeah, the last thing I said is, in my opinion, was important, and that is the app is not going into production. So, I mean, from an IT perspective, we only have so much time in the day, there's only so many competing priorities. So if something is not going into production, why continue to?
Got it, that's a beautiful articulation. We have reasons why we think we should until other things exist, but that we can discuss on our own, and you guys don't have to care. But we can share our opinion later. Yeah.
I think the one thing that strikes for me that stands out is a decision was made. And none of us really had input, and maybe that's how it works, but I think what I'm picking up on the campus climate is this has been happening. And the instructors, this body, and those we represent have not been consulted. And so when decisions are made without the input or checking, there becomes this lack of trust. And we've been dealing with that for so many years. So if a decision was made last summer, I'm just really confused about the whole thing. It seems like we're duplicating the effort. We have this great opportunity with the one app for publicity, bring people in, maybe increase enrollment. None of this makes any sense to me right now.
Well, we don't know the full picture here either.
I know,
I think
that's what I'm saying.
It's a chance for Senate to get this glimpse and make a decision if we want to talk about it more.
Yeah, that's why I said I think.
And I really appreciate everybody's time.
Yeah.
And the chance to get to talk about it. All right, so it is 5 o'clock, so anybody, Margaret, did you want a last word of any kind?
Sure, I have a number of things to comment back on, but we're out of time, so I would appreciate a chance to, give my perspective on some of the things Dean said, which I don't necessarily agree with, but my big question is something I've asked, Paloma, you'll remember this also. I asked from the beginning, please don't make any decisions without consulting with students. We have a student at the table. I've asked Student Senate to be a part of it. I just really believe any decision that impacts student and student experience really needs to include students in that decision. The fact that I built this with the previous president's cabinet and everybody's approval, and then they changed and, and so on, was a little difficult. So there's a question here, and you ask about what are we doing in this body. I think maybe talking about how, in light of all the different transitions we go through, how different projects and people and ideas continue through all those changes, that can be kind of tricky to navigate as things change. But I would have liked to have been included to talk about it. President's cabinet, where that space was weird. I don't know what couldn't have been a part of that conversation, but not just faculty and mostly students. So that's all I'm saying. But thank you all.
Thank you. So we will think about how to return to this to the Senate and next steps. All right, is there a motion to adjourn? Yes. Elizabeth. Thank you. Adjourned at 5:02. Thanks, you guys. Really.
Said this.